much for the invitation, Sven-Arne. This was sort of a last-minute stand-in for Javier was initially meant to give this talk. So I hope this meets your expectation. My name is Leonora. I work at the National Library of Sweden, more precisely at KB Lab, which is our data lab at the library. And I'll give a brief overview of what we are doing when it comes to Whisper at the lab. So to first set the scene, the National Library of Sweden collects, preserves, and gives access to everything published and broadcasted in Sweden. This is due to a legal deposit law from 1661. And this means that we hold up to 18 million objects, and many of them are digitized. KB Lab is a data lab at the library. It's recognized as a national research infrastructure, which means we invite researchers, mainly in digital humanities, to perform their large-scale quantitative research on our collections. But what we've mostly been known for in the past couple of years is that we've become sort of a Swedish large language model factory. And this is possible due to two very important reasons. We have, first of all, lawful access to our collections, and we also have computing resources from the Euro HPC joint undertaking, which is something I'll describe a bit more later on. And this means that we can provide a transparent, open, and democratic alternative to large language models and speech-to-text models from the tech giants. This plot is just showing you the number of downloads for some of our models from Hugging Face. And maybe you can't see that so clearly in this plot, but there are hundreds of thousands of downloads per month on our models, because there's really a need for specialized language models and speech-to-text models for Swedish. But today we're not going to talk about language models. We're going to talk about acoustic models or speech-to-text models. So basically, the idea is to map a waveform to a string of words. And as you can imagine, this can be used for transcriptions, accessibility adaptation, automatic captioning, etc. I will focus on two models for this talk, or mainly Whisper. There are, of course, many other models on the market, but the take-home message for these models is that, first of all, they are trained with data of unknown origin, and especially for smaller languages like Swedish, since the data sets are much smaller, they won't cover any, like all of our dialects. And as you can see from this plot here, the Vesterbacka from Facebook and Whisper from OpenAI, in their multilingual, for their multilingual versions, the training set is up to hundreds of thousands of hours of speech, where Swedish is just a fraction of this. So as you can imagine, not all dialects and not all socialects will be covered in this data set. But to just describe a bit more why this is important for libraries especially, our library hosts 10 million hours of audiovisual material. We have radio, TV, and podcast that we get from this legal deposit law. And this we just get delivered to us from the broadcast, but we have very, very limited metadata, especially historically. And this is just a screenshot from the, if we're lucky, the type of metadata we can have. So for those of you who know your Swedish history, the 1st of March of 1986 is a very important date. You wouldn't know that from just looking at this type of list of what was aired on radio that day. So the red square here is just showing that one of the channels was sending quiet music and news. But what happened on the 1st of March? Our prime minister back then was shot to death. And if you instead had a audiovisual archive that you could search in, you would be able to search for his name. So his name is Olof Palme. And on this date, you could see if you search for his name up in the kind of search box up here, you'd see that his name was not really mentioned earlier on, but once we get to the 1st of March, 1986, his name is mentioned everywhere. But this is kind of showing you the problem with audiovisual archives. You need to know what you're looking for. If you don't know the date of the exact recording you're looking for, you will never find it. But by transcribing your archives, you'll be able to search it in this way and see sort of the same sort of trends. So Sven-Arne asked me to talk a bit more about one of these models, Whisper. This is a model that was released in 2021 by OpenAI. They haven't released the pre-training code, so they do that for us in a sense, but they've released, or Hugging Face have released a sort of a tutorial how to fine-tune this model on your own data. So this model is an encoder-decoder, so it's sort of an end-to-end approach. Opposite to other types of models like Wave2Vec, it is a single model for the whole speech recognition pipeline. So if you have any experience with Wave2Vec, you know that you kind of have to have a language model at the end to make the output look like speech and not just or a text in a good form, instead of just looking at the output from the model itself. But Whisper sort of takes care of the whole, takes care of all of that. It is trained with a supervised objective, however, only weakly supervised. So the problem historically is, or as you know, training supervised machine learning models requires a lot of labeled data sets, and that is very cumbersome to come by for especially smaller languages like Sweden. You have to have like these gold standard transcriptions in order to train anything. However, what was shown in 2021 with Whisper was that you could achieve like a very, very robust speech-to-text model by also relaxing a bit the requirements of these transcriptions. So this enables you to have much, much more data, even though it's not perfect. You can train on much, much more, for example, using subtitles from TV. So this model is trained on 680,000 hours of transcribed audio. It's probably coming from the web. I don't know how they get their data at OpenAI. The take-home message from these plots, I love plots. This one is that the red curve here is Whisper, kind of showing you that if you compare these other models and adding noise, so adding noise is going from left to right on the plot, and you can see that the other models are degrading faster with the addition of more noise, which means that Whisper will be more robust if you have recordings in a very noisy environment. It will still be able to perform better than other models. So that was kind of the take-home message from these plots. But I'll tell you a bit more about what we do with Whisper at the library. So, like Sven-Arne said, they've already, at the NB AI lab in Norway, they've already performed a couple of fine-tunings of Whisper for Norwegian. We want to do the same. We will perform what we think is a sort of a continued pre-training of the multilingual Whisper. We want to train all model sizes because there are many different applications out there, and we have many users who need better Swedish speech-to-text models, and we want to not discriminate by just training the biggest one and then exclude many of our users. But the main work done here is that we've tried to create an inclusive Swedish speech corpus. So we're aiming at collecting around 30 to 40,000 hours of transcribed Swedish. We will never be able to collect 680,000 hours of Swedish speech. That doesn't exist. But this table on your right is screenshotted from the Whisper paper, which is showing basically that the English word error rate is decreasing quite nicely with the addition of more data, but reaches a sort of a plateau at around 30,000 hours of your data set size, which means that you can achieve okay performance with that data, and you don't have to bend over backwards to collect 680,000 hours of speech. So that is our plan. We have been awarded access to a supercomputer in Italy. It's called Leonardo, and it's on the top 10 of the top 500 list of supercomputers. If you know this, this is a kind of list of all the best supercomputers in the world. This is through a European Commission network called the Euro-HPC Joint Undertaking, which is basically paying for and maintaining these different supercomputers throughout Europe. And we have been awarded 50,000 node hours, where each node has Ampere GPUs, and this will be enough to train all these versions of Whisper on our data. Just want to say a bit more about the data we have. So first of all, we've been at the library, we have the radio and TV from other inner collections. This is basically everything broadcasted, thanks to the deposit law. So Swedish TV, if we get the Swedish subtitles delivered, is a perfect training material for Whisper. It's not perfect quality, but it's still good enough for Whisper. So that's our first main bulk of our training material. The main public service TV station actually doesn't deliver subtitles to the National Library of Sweden, but they also want to look into automated captioning for them for their own broadcasts. So we've entered into a collaboration where we get access to their old what they've aired previously. So TV with Swedish speech paired with Swedish subtitles, in the hope that we will be able to improve our model using their data, so that it will be better for their automatic captioning needs. And we've also been able to use some of their old subtitles, like the people actually doing the subtitles before. They've been annotating some of their subtitles with information on the speakers, dialects, age, gender, etc. So that serves as a perfect evaluation data set for to evaluate these models. We also have a collaboration with the Riksdag administration. So the Riksdag is the Swedish Parliament. So they are responsible for recording everything that is said in the Parliament, and also provide protocols. And these protocols have very high quality standards. It's a question of democracy. You have to really document everything that says in Parliament. And we have been given access with this old hard drive, access to all audio recordings with protocols from 1966. So this amounts to 18 hours of transcribed speech. This speech of a very certain type, you might say, like old political type of Swedish, but it's still a very, very good source, and a lot of it too. And then finally, like Sven-Anna also mentioned, these models have a difficulty with various dialects in Swedish and Norwegian. And we have a collaboration with another government agency called the Institute for Language and Folklore. It's a very small government agency that hosts large collections of audio recordings in Swedish. So basically they've been going around Sweden and recording old people talking their dialects. So some of this material is transcribed as a part of research. So people have just been doing research on these audio archives. A lot of it is untranscribed so far, but we will be able to use both of these materials for training Whisper and also another type of model. So I probably have used my 12 minutes now, but with this in mind, I just wanted to wrap up and say that we will start the continued pre-training of Whisper on this data set that we've constructed after the summer. So thank you very much for listening.